The following is meant for entertainment and educational purposes. It is not meant to establish a doctor-patient relationship. Please consult your mental health provider for your mental health needs. Hello, welcome to Chez Eric, my home, where we talk about psychiatry and religion with a focus on how to apply it to your life. I am Dr. Eric. I am a psychiatrist who happens to be religious, and I want to create this space so we can have a nice conversation about psychiatry and religion because I feel like it can help improve your life. Pretty simple. So today we will be continuing the William James series on the Varieties of Religious Experience, Lecture 9 on the conversion process. This is the last part of the first half of his discussion about religion. So this is Lecture 9. He's going to have a Lecture 10 on conversion concluded. So that will kind of go deeper into what he's trying to get at with understanding the conversion process. So this is kind of the basics of what is the conversion process. As a mini recap, we understand that our mind has ways of understanding the world and groups and stuff like that. And then if you have a transition of groups, of the way you behave in one group versus another group, then that transition is a bit of the conversion process. But conversion specifically deals with religious conversion. And so when something used to be at the peripheral of religious concept, used to be at the peripheral of your conscious thought, it suddenly becomes the center of your energy, the center of what you're trying to do. And that is a conversion process. In this conversion process, you could do it consciously with gradual, improvements like a musician or an athlete, or you could do it in a subconscious process with what they called self-surrender. And that's where we left off previously. William James says that the space where psychology and religion kind of have harmony is when they have the acknowledgement that there's something more than the conscious state of what we understand about the world. That there's other actions outside of what we consciously understand. Psychology would say that this is a subconscious process, whereas theology would say, no, this is God in action. And so the question is, how do you tell the two? William James proposes that, if you assume that it's a subconscious process, then in many respects, it's still a part of you. And any change that happens would simply be a natural progression of what you normally would have done. It just feels like a change, a great change, because it just is you anyway. It's part of your subconscious. That there's no way for you to get anything outside of what you understand about the world anyway. Whereas religion would say, no, it's coming from God, and therefore you can have profound and fundamental changes to your fundamental nature. And that is a different sort of way of viewing that outside force that is outside of your conscious. But which one is right? Who is right? It's hard to say. One person might say that, yeah, all of this religious stuff is just your subconscious stuff acting. There's no God, it's just your subconscious. And I mentioned last time, my issue with throwing everything in subconscious, I try not to do it too much. And on the other hand, a religious person would say, nope, it's all God. God is interacting with you. I would probably say, we have to be careful because there are actually observable subconscious dynamics that are going on. What would William James say? Well, he talks about this later in the second half of his discussion with the conversion process, that the subconscious might very well be the way that God interacts with us. So there's no need to separate the two. You can actually have both at the same time. And that conversion, a religious conversion, has this subconscious component, and it's okay. It doesn't negate the existence of God. But we'll probably have to talk more in depth about that later. Instead, I kind of want to explore more about this subconscious concept and really flesh it out. And William James talks about this as well. If someone is unhappy, he says at the edge of despair, if you go to that person and say, stop worrying, then they'll just stop, right? Problem solved. Not so much. And the reason is because if you do that, you will end up coming off as absurd because the positive consciousness that they're experiencing is some form of pain. If a person came to me with suicide ideation and depression, I don't tell them, there, it's okay, you're going to be fine. No, I let them talk about their depression because I know consciously they cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. And James is saying that the will to believe cannot be stretched farther than our conscious understanding of the world. We can make ourselves, more faithful if we have a source for it, but we can't just have belief out of nowhere. William James doesn't really develop, He doesn't get into this part that I'm talking about now. What I'm talking about now is kind of a new development with understanding the idea of priming. Priming is an interesting concept. It's a concept that says that we receive information and we accept information based on what we've been primed to receive. So I might have discussed this before in other videos, but I'll discuss it again here. Let's say you grow up in a conservative household and you believe, say, the conservative/Republican sort of understanding of the world and how government should be run. That means that when you receive an article that's conservative in nature and ideas that are conservative in nature, you are more likely to believe it than if it were liberal in nature. If it were more liberal in nature, you might be holding with a little bit more of a critical eye. And the truth is the opposite as well. If you grow up in a liberal household, then when you see a conservative concept, you'll be more skeptical. But when you see a liberal concept, you've been primed to receive it. And therefore you accept it a little bit more. And so it is this idea of priming that's happening in our subconscious space that allows us to accept and reject certain ideas overall. And William James just wants to point out that this exists. And this is part of the conversion process. And so what do we do with this? Well, he says when it comes specifically to the example of despair and sadness, he says there's only really, two major ways to get rid of worry, fear, anger, despair, or generally negative emotions. And the first one is that the opposite emotion completely overpowers us. So kind of like with the little child, if they're really grumpy and angry, if you pick them up and you put them in Disneyland, it's going to be very hard for them to continue to be grumpy and angry. It's just hard for them to do that. The second way is when you get so exhausted with that particular emotion that you just stop and you literally just don't care anymore. Like your brain takes a strike and goes into apathy. And that's where we get sort of someone's feeling really angry. I'm really angry about this thing. I hate this is happening. And you do it for too long. And you're like, I give up. It's not even worth my time anymore. Whatever. And then you just kind of let go. The second is actually more common with the conversion crisis. Because for the sick soul, if you're in a sick soul who cannot deny that evil things exist, they simply look at the evil, they look at the evil, they see the evil, they see the evil, and then eventually they get so exhausted that they just let go, and then they allow the expansiveness of their subconscious of faith to come in. And, there are, still exceptions for some people, right, where independent of exhaustion, the higher condition, the ideal, remember the ideal that we had to have in order to have a subconscious conversion process, it just bursts through and they're able to get it. But James will go into that a little bit later. So for now, I hope you enjoyed this 5-part series on the first half of the conversion process, that you understand more of what William James is trying to get into, about what is the conversion process. Let me know in the comments below what your experiences are. Let me know what you think. Let me know your, conversion experiences. Let me know if you feel like what William James is saying matches up with what you've experienced yourself. And until then, I'll check you next time. Do like and subscribe. Catch you later. Bye. Hey, how's it going? Check out my new website. It's available now. You can learn more about me. You can also check out some things I'll be offering in the future, webinars, books, and whatnot. It's a fancy website with a lot of moving parts, designed by someone who's very, very talented. So check it out when you get a chance. All right, I'll talk to you later.